Colleagues, I am going to allow you 2 minutes to sit down so that we can start. I have been advised that there is space in the gallery, especially those who will not be making any inputs. Can they assist us by moving up to the gallery? Good morning to everybody in the room. This is a continuation of last week's meeting, which could not proceed for reasons known to all of us. We would like to thank everybody who is here. We thank you for your patience and for your willingness to assist this process to get to the bottom of this saga. We take note of the recent developments regarding the rearresting of Mr. Bester and his associates, but that does not discharge our oversight responsibility as the committee. We still have to get to the bottom of this, what led to this escape. We need to ensure that we have a report to the House, and also what needs to be done. We must have clear recommendations at the end of this process. We have set aside 2 days so that we can have sufficient time, but we will make an assessment tomorrow as to whether we still need more time or what will need to be done after tomorrow. We will make that assessment tomorrow. Today we will start with G4S, who have been summoned in terms of Section 56A of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, read with Section 14, subsection 2A of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislature Act number 44 of 2004. This follows their failure to avail themselves to appear before the committee on the 4th of April 2023. The committee resolved to summon them to appear before it to make presentations on circumstances around Mr. Thabo Besta's escape, answer questions in respect of the above, and to produce any records in their possession that may assist the committee in conducting its oversight in respect of A and B of the above. Please be aware to all the people who will be making presentations or answering questions, please be aware that failure to comply with summons, especially to G4S, is a criminal offense. In terms of Section 17 of the Act, any person who has been duly summoned and fails without sufficient cause to attend at a time and place specified in the summons, or to remain in attendance until excused from further attendance by the chairperson, or when called upon to do so, refuse to be sworn in or to make an affirmation as a witness, or fail without sufficient cause to answer fully and satisfactorily all questions lawfully put to him or her, or fails to produce any document in his or her possession or custody or under his or her control which he or she has been required to produce, commits an offense that may be punished by a fine or imprisonment up to 12 months or both. Because GCS, you have been summoned in terms of Section 14 of the Act, Powers and Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislature Act. Section 15 of the Act provides that prior to your examination or asking you to produce documents, the chairperson may call upon and cause an oath to be administered or accept from such person who has been summoned in terms of Section 14 of the Act. I will now ask the legal advisor to administer the oath on G4S.
Thank you, Chair. The chairperson has given a summary of the oath. However, I will repeat it. You have been summoned or invited subject to the provisions of Section 16 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act, Act 44 of 2004, to appear before this committee to answer questions in respect of the committee's oversight meeting into the circumstances relating to the escape of Mr. Thabo Besta from the Mangaung Correctional Centre and related matters. Please be informed that by law you're required to answer fully and satisfactorily all the questions lawfully put to you, or to produce any document that you're required to produce in connection with the subject matter of the inquiry, notwithstanding the fact that the answer or the document could incriminate you or expose you to a criminal or civil proceedings or damages. You are, however, protected in that evidence given under oath or affirmation before a House or committee may not be used against you in any court or place outside Parliament, except in criminal proceedings concerning a charge of perjury or a charge relating to the evidence or documents required in these proceedings. Please be aware that in terms of Section 17(2) of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act, a person who willfully furnishes a House or committee with information or makes a statement before it which is false or misleading commits an offence and is liable to a fine or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 years. I'd like the gentleman before the committee to please state their full name and designation for the record. This is for G4S.
Good morning. My name is Jacobus Johannes Groenewoud, and I'm the Regional Commercial Director for G4S Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Groenewoud.
Good morning, Chair, as well as the Portfolio Committee members. My name is Joseph Ngabisile Munyante, and I'm the head of the Correctional Center at Mangaung. Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Chair.
Sorry, maybe before you proceed, I think it will be important that witnesses sit there. I'm not sure whether those two gentlemen are aspiring witnesses.
I think it's Mr. Groenewoud.
Yes. Mr. Groenewoud, you can sit here because the presentation is with you. Two of you, okay. And then the other person, the third one?
The third member, Chair, is available to answer any questions.
Okay,
If you'd like to, I can present from
that's fine. You are ready?
I have to.
Okay, please proceed.
My name is Gert Cornelius Beileveld. I'm the Audit and Risk Director at Mangaung Correctional Facility.
I will begin with you, Mr. Groenewoud. You are required to take an oath or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is truthful. You may choose to take the oath or affirmation. Which do you prefer?
The oath, please.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I swear that the evidence I shall give
I swear that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Witnesses duly sworn in, Chair. Mr. Munyante, you're required to take an oath or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is truthful. You may choose to take an oath or the affirmation. Which do you prefer?
The oath.
Can put your mic closer so that everybody can hear.
The oath.
The oath. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. Switch on your mic. I swear that the evidence I shall give
I swear that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing
But the truth.
but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
The witness is duly sworn in. Mr. Bielefeld, you're required to take an oath or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is truthful. You may choose to take the oath or the affirmation. Which do you prefer?
The oath.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I swear that the evidence I shall give
I swear that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
The witness is duly sworn in, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now give this opportunity to G4S to make its presentations.
Thank you, Honourable Chair.
But before you proceed, we were expecting this presentation latest yesterday. Up to now, we did not receive the presentation, which is unfortunate because we have to go through the presentation, we have to prepare, and you not giving us the presentation is making our work difficult. And I think it's common sense that you forward the presentation that you're going to make and give people sufficient time to go through the presentations. And in your correspondence with us, you said that you would like to be summoned after Good Friday because you wanted to prepare yourselves. And we thought that part of that preparation is to give us documents on time.
That's correct, Chair. I apologise for us submitting the documents late. We finished our preparation only around midnight last night. We did arrive early this morning to try and submit the documents to the committee for consumption before this meeting, but we were unable to get the documents to the committee. So I apologise for that, Chair.
No, we don't really. It does affect our oversight responsibility when we are not given time to go through documents and prepare. And we're doing this work on behalf of the people of South Africa. So it's really unacceptable.
Chair, I accept that. Our presentation, I believe, is brief and concise, and we will take the members through the presentation, I believe, within 40 minutes.
You can proceed.
Thank you. Honourable Chair, honourable members of the committee, good morning. My name is Kobus Groenewoud. I'm the Director of G4S Care and Justice Services, and I'm also Director of BCC. Honourable Chair, before I move to take the members through our presentation, and before I give my colleagues an opportunity to introduce themselves formally, allow me to thank you for sending us the summons that we asked for and making it possible for us to attend today. Chair, we have the greatest respect for this committee and for its work, and we sincerely regret the inconvenience that we caused last week and for us not being available or possible to attend. Chair, had we attended last week, we would have been legally barred, I think for known reasons, from acting and participating fully and sharing all information available to us with this committee. Thanks to the summons, we are in that position today where we can participate fully and we can answer all questions that you have. And Chair, we have participated fully from the outset with all investigating authorities. Chair, with your indulgence, I'd like my two colleagues to present themselves to, or introduce themselves to the committee this morning.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair, as well as to the Honorable Portfolio Committee members. Like I said, my name is Joseph Mnyante. I'm the head of the Correctional Center at Mangaung, and my responsibilities are...
Can you use your mic?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair, and good morning to the honorable members in the committee. My name is Joseph Mnyante, the head of the Correctional Center at Mangaung. My responsibilities at the center is to take care of the well-being of the inmates, as well as the well-being of the employees that are employed in the center, and as well as taking care of the facility itself. And I've been serving in the corrections environment since 1987. And then in 2000, I joined G4S as one of the unit managers. And then in 2014, I became the director appointed in that center. Thank you, Chair.
Morning, Chair. My name is Gert Bijleveld. I've got 46 years correctional services experience, 24 years in corrections, currently 22 years with G4S. In my time in corrections, I served as the auditor for the Free State province for a period of just over 10 years, and I'm currently overseeing the contract at the center as Director Director Audit and Risks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Honourable Chair, honourable members of the committee, our presentation today is split into a number of sections. Firstly, we have a section dealing with or providing background to the Mangaung Correctional Facility. We also have a section dealing with the events on the 3rd of May 2002, and I'll ask Mr. Munyanti to deal with those slides. I'll then take over from Mr. Munyanti, and I'll deal with the three very distinct investigations that followed, conducted by various parties, including MCC. I'll deal with the assistance that MCC gave the various parties. Chair, I'll also make reference to the document that we received from DCC, dated the 28th of February 2023, the notice rather, and then I'll make some concluding statements. That is the body of our presentation today. So, Chair, with your permission, I'd like to call Mr. Munyanti to the stand.
Thank you, Chair. Like I said, my name is Joseph, and the head of the Correctional Center. In that center, there's 504 employees that has been appointed who are working in the center. We are having an oversight from the Judicial Inspectorate. According to the annual report that we received, which was covering a period of 2021 and 2022, in this report, we have learned that JICS has evaluated and assessed a number of correctional centers, 39 of them. And out of 39 correctional centers, 7 of these correctional centers were rated to be the good ones. And out of the 7, 1 of them is Mangaung Correctional Center. And I also want to highlight, Chair, that in Mangaung Correctional Center, we do have a lot of independent as well as continuous monitoring by statutory and contractual compliance by the DCS, which are represented by the controller as well as the deputy controller, as well as the 5 staff members of the controller that are based on site on a daily basis. We also want to highlight that at this center, we do have 2 officials from the Judicial Inspectorate that are visiting the correctional center. Both the controller as well as the Judicial Inspectorate officials, they do have access to all the parts of the center. They do have access to all information that is applicable on the center or in the center. Like I've mentioned, we've got also the risk and the audit function at MCC, where the operations and independency of this audit, Mr. Beilegert, is also applicable to ensure that we do comply with the set contractual standards. And we have also learned on the media about the contrary information that the inmate we are avoiding or preventing the inmates to write. We want to assure the committee that we do allow inmates to write to whoever body that they are allowed to write to. And to assist the inmates, we give them what we call the prepaid envelope that they request, and then they can write to anybody that they want to write to. These bodies will either include the Commission for the Human Rights, which is also visiting the center. And I can also assure the committee, or I can also assure you, Chair, that when we do have what we call the family days, where we allow the family members to have an interaction with the inmates, we also invite this body, the human rights representatives. We also invite the JIC's representatives to be with the families or to be with the inmates. If there are any concerns, then the inmates can have platform, or family members can have platform to raise these concerns. We're also having the visits from the high courts. And Chair, these visits from the high courts, judges, is normally unannounced. And we have been receiving, the last visit that we received, it was on the 12th October 2022. And I will also show you, Chair, on the next slide, one of the remarks that was made by one of the judges that visited the center. It was really, really positive. Also in 2019, the South African Human Rights Commission recognized Mangaung Correctional Center as the center of excellence in ensuring the human dignity of the inmates. The infrastructure talks to this, where inmates can have access to all what they are supposed to have as the human beings. On the second bullet, I want to also present, Chair, that we've got the robust processes that are designed to prevent the escapes that might happen at MCC. In this regard, MCC has been of the most secure correctional centers in South Africa. Why I'm saying that, on the second sub-bullet, on bullet number 2, is that on over 22 years period, there has been 2 escapes incidents from Mangaung. The second one, which includes this one of Thabo Bester. And then the other one is the inmate that escaped from the outside hospital when he went for medical attention. And then the third sub-bullet, when we check information that is public knowledge, is that DCS has reported 515 inmates escaped from South African correctional centers in the last 10 years. Can I have the next slide, please? And then these are the comments that I referred to, which we received from the visit by the judges from the high courts. I will really not be going through that, but these were really motivational and they were very impressive. And this gave us courage to say whatever that we are doing in the center is still seen to be excellent, despite the challenges that we are facing. And then the incident summary. Chair, on the 30th April, which is last year in 2022, we received an application from inmate Bester, where he was requesting to be transferred to a single cell, in single cells, which we normally call Broadway, in one of the units at MCC. And this request, it was an own request. He was not sent there either for disciplinary hearing or whatever. And procedurally, such applications, we forward them to the Office of the Controller, who is the representative of DCS, and it was indeed approved accordingly.
Sorry, sir. There is noise up there, and it's affecting us down here. Please proceed.
Okay, on the 30th April 2022, we received an application from inmate Bester, where he was applying to be kept in a single cell for his own safety, of which we handled accordingly, and it was approved by the DCS controller on site. And inmate Bester was placed in cell 35. And then on the 2nd May 2022, at 7:30 in the evening, After we have done the roll count, because we are doing four roll counts per day, the last one, which is 7:30 in the evening, we can confirm that all the cells were locked for the night, as well as the cell of inmate Bester. Because the locking and the checking of the locking system, it is a standard operating procedure at MCC. At the same time, the security system technician, he went to the central control and then to check whether it's all electronic system operational, which he confirmed to be operational and functioning. In the central control room, we do have 2 control officers or central control officers which were on duty, and their function or their main function is to monitor camera footages, to open doors and to manage the system. The next day, which was the 3rd May 2022, at 4 o'clock, early hours of the morning, fire was discovered from cell 35, and it was extinguished by the MCC trained personnel. After they've distinguished this fire, that cell was cordoned off. And then from there, what we have picked up is that MCC as well as DCS managed the management. They were called because procedurally, we need to report these things, or whoever that is on duty during the night needs to report to the senior management of MCC as well as to the controller that is on site. 26 minutes after 4 o'clock, the nurse arrived, and this nurse is working for an independent contractor on site, which is called Lai Faranani, to come and see what best can they do there. And then 3 minutes before 5 o'clock, as we could pick up from the recordings, the DCS controller arrives. 1 minute past 5, the MCC operations director arrived. 10 minutes later, doctor, who's also serving for Lai Faranani, also arrived, and he examined the body, and then he certified inmate Bester to be dead. The next slide. On the 3rd May, 6 o'clock, early hours of the morning, we also picked up the arrival of the area commissioner, as well as the duty director. 5 minutes before 7 o'clock, the SAPS arrived, and then 10:30 during the day, the SAPS forensic team arrives. The SAPS completed its examination and they took photos of the incident. The SAPS forensic team removes the body to the state mortuary for the post-mortem. Once the SAPS has completed its examination, they gave us a go-ahead that we can either clean the cell or get the cell to be used again. And then after the body was removed, the MCC retrieved the deceased position for safekeeping in the administration building stores. Amongst the items that were found, it was a laptop which was authorized, as well as the cell phone which was not authorized to be in the possession of the inmate. That evening, 7:30, a final road check, when the final road check was done, we can confirm that all the 2,928 inmates, they were accounted for. The next day, which was the 4th May 2022, we received the notice of death for inmate Bester, where the pathologist has certified the inmate, which we received from the Department of Health. On the same date, Chairperson, MCC administration staff raises concerns for a smell that they picked up from the deceased position that was removed from the cell. And then the MCC operations director then informed the SAPS about this unusual smell that we picked up of a petrol from inmate Bester's possession belongings. On the 5th May 2022, based on MCC concerns, SAPS returns to MCC to inspect the deceased position, as we have reported that we picked up a smell of an unusual smell. On the 6th May, the Department of Home Affairs then issued a death certificate for inmate Bester. 2 days later, which was the 8th May, the SAPS forensics returns to MCC to collect the belongings recovered from cell 35, including the laptop as well as the cell phone. And Chair, I will then hand over to Mr. Groenewald to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Mr. Manyanti has taken the committee through some background regarding Mangaung Correctional Centre, which has been in operation now for almost 22 years, and has also taken you through the events of the 3rd of May 2022 and the days immediately thereafter. I'd now like to turn to the 3 very separate investigations that followed the incident of the 3rd of May. There was a criminal investigation launched by the South African Police Services. I think it's important to point out that in the early days, this investigation took the form of a suicide. And then from the 25th of May last year, the police changed this into a murder investigation. There was also an independent investigation into the unnatural cause. This is a standard procedure conducted by JICS. And then we as MCC conducted the 3rd and very independent investigation, which is a compliance investigation. And our compliance investigation commenced on that morning of the 3rd of May last year. Turning to the first investigation, the SAPS criminal investigation. Honourable Chair, I'd like to say from the outset that MCC cooperated fully with the SAPS from the word go. On the 3rd of May, as you heard, SAPS attended the scene to investigate what was then assumed to be a suicide. It was MCC who called the SAPS and made them aware of a chemical smell, a petrol smell, coming from the personal belongings of inmate Bester that had been moved, as you heard, for safekeeping to the administrative block. This was done on the 4th of May. We also assisted SAPS on the 17th of May. What we requested, rather, on the 17th of May from SAPS in writing a copy of the post-mortem report. This was never provided to us, and that request was declined. On the 25th of May, SAPS informed us that they have now officially converted the investigation from a suicide into a homicide, or rather into a murder, following the state autopsy report. On the 2nd of June 2022, we provided SAPS with additional information that they had created. And on the 14th of January 2023, this year, Honourable Chair, we understand that SAPS opened an investigation into an escape. It's important to note that prior to this date, we received no formal communication from SAPS that they had now moved to an investigation into escape. This formed part of the SAPS documents that were produced for purposes of this committee on the 4th of April 2023. Moving to the second investigation, this is the independent investigation into the unnatural death. Again, Honourable Chair, I'd like to say that MCC cooperated with JICS throughout the process. We notified JICS on the 9th of May 2002 of the death. On the 3rd of August, we produced to JICS our preliminary investigation report into the matter. On the 19th of October, we shared with JICS available video footage. And on the 2nd of February this year, we provided to JICS a final investigation report, the MCC final investigation report. This report was handed over during a meeting between MCC and JICS. And Honourable Chairs, at this meeting that we, MCC, was informed of a suspicion around the escape of inmate Bester. This is also the meeting at which MCC was shown the DNA report for the first time. Moving to the third investigation conducted by MCC, and as I said, Honourable Chair, we commenced this investigation on the 3rd of May 2002. I want to point out that we do not, as MCC, have the authority nor the skills to conduct a criminal or a forensic investigation. This is the purview of the other parties represented in the room today. We started this investigation, as I said, on the 3rd of May 2002. This was initiated by G4S Care and Justice Services. And as I said, this is a compliance investigation. We had to analyze the actions of our staff leading up to the events of the 3rd of May, through that night and in the days that followed. And we had to ensure and test our actions against the Correctional Services Act, our obligations in terms of that act, in terms of the contract that we have with BCC, and BCC in turn has with the Department of Correctional Services. And thirdly, we had to check the conduct against the very stringent policies and procedures that we have governing the management of the correctional facility. Consistent with best practice, the Audit and Risk Director, Mr. Bijleveld, who is independent of the Centre Director, Mr. Monyante, was assigned by us to lead the investigation. In conducting the investigation, we included interviews with staff members, and we considered registers, documents, and CCTV footage. DCS, through the members present on a daily basis at the correctional centre, had full access to this evidence. And as you heard earlier on, we also shared this evidence with the South African Police Service. Evidence and reports, as you heard, were also shared with JICS. Honourable Chair, we made a number of notable findings through our investigation. The first finding was that the CCTV system was fully operational, except for the cameras covering the Broadway unit, where inmate Bester was held, and the administrative building. The video cameras for these two buildings function off the same power circuit, and it came to our attention that power to that circuit had failed during the period 1938 on the evening of 2 May and 04:1100 hours on the morning of 3 May. Other than this failure, there were no other power interruptions recorded at MCC during this time. 2 Central Control Room officials failed to follow clearly established MCC policies and procedures, and they did not monitor or report events in a timely manner. That was another notable finding. A further notable finding was that the on-site night duty supervisor, who was on duty from the evening of the 2nd of May to the morning of the 3rd of May, also failed to follow clear and well-established MCC policies and procedures. This person failed to complete his inspection rounds according to policy. This individual failed to attend to incidents on time. This individual directed staff to insignificant tasks. He ignored a call to attend a report of smoke in Broadway, cell 35, where inmate Bester was housed. And he failed to properly account for his movements and actions on the night of 2 May and the morning of 3 May. The last notable finding that we made, Honourable Chair, was that there is video footage, distant video footage, of 2 individuals running towards the administrative building in the early hours of that morning. The footage is distant because the cameras that I believe were better placed to record that movement were near the administrative building and the Broadway unit, and they were not working. We were unable to identify whether these two individuals are G4S staff members, Mangaung prison officials, or whether they were inmates. We were unable to determine that. Honourable committee members, we shared information as it became available to us. Video footage and information was shared with the DCS, SAPS and JICS, and this information was shared from as early as May 2022 through to October 2022 to support them in their various investigations. I highlighted earlier on that there were a number of concurrent investigations running. Following the MCC investigation, we took three actions. 3 employees were suspended shortly after the incident. I believe the first suspension was as early as the 6th of May, and ultimately led to the dismissal of Mr. Senoy Motswara on the 29th of September 2022. Mr. Motswara was the on-site night duty supervisor on the evening of the 2nd of May, morning of the 3rd of May, on that night shift. He was also arrested last week by the SAPS. We also reinforced controls. This is physical access controls to the digital video recorder room, where the recordings of these various cameras was to have been collated. And we will be improving the latest smart lock technology to control, monitor, and audit access to this room. In addition, we've installed tamper-proof cameras following this event. Honourable Chair, I'd now like to move to the cooperation that MCC provided to SAPS, followed by JICS, and then finally the DCS in that order. On the 3rd of May, MCC, upon discovering the fire and what then appeared to be an attempted suicide, we called SAPS to the scene immediately. They arrived just before 7 o'clock in the morning. The forensic team from SAPS arrived around 10:30. SAPS took control of the scene. They completed their investigation. They took the necessary photographs. And once they had completed their investigation, they handed the cell back to us. SAPS gave no indication on that morning that anything other than a suicide appeared to be at play. As I mentioned before, the next morning on the 4th of May, staff in our administrative block noticed a smell of petrol, some accelerant coming from the personal belongings of inmate Bester that had been placed in that block for safekeeping to later be handed to his next of kin. And we immediately advised SAPS of this issue. They attended the MCC via their forensic unit the next day on the 5th, and they concurred with us that there was traces of an accelerant present. On the 8th of May, SAPS returned to MCC and they collected all the deceased possessions, and they also again confirmed the presence of this accelerant. On the 9th of May, our MCC administrative staff handed to SAPS the state mortuary notification of death form that was dated the 6th of May 2022. Honourable members, on the 22nd of June, upon a formal request by SAPS, we provided the following information to them. Firstly, particulars and the duty list of all members who were on duty from 7:30 the evening of 2 May until 7:30 on the morning of the 3rd of May. We provided to them all available footage. We provided to them records of all visits to inmate Bester. We also provided details of inmate Bester's belongings that we handed over to the next of kin. Details of the individuals who reported inmate Bester's death to the next of kin was also handed over to the SAPS. And finally, we gave them the MCC incident report of what transpired between 2 May and 3 May. We gave our cooperation to JICS in the following manner. On the 9th of May 2022, we sent to the inspecting judge a notification of death form to the office of the inspecting judge. On the 3rd of August, we shared with JICS the preliminary investigation report and supporting documentation. On the 19th of October, available footage was also shared with JICS. Then there was the meeting of the 2nd of February 2023 that I referred to earlier. This was the meeting between MCC and JICS at which JICS mentioned to MCC that they have suspicions that inmate Bester had escaped. JICS also at this meeting showed us a copy of the post-mortem report and the DNA analysis. This is the DNA analysis report that was issued on the 1st of July 2022. We were given access to that report on the 2nd of February 2023. And then at this meeting, we also shared with JICS our final investigation report. On the 7th of February, there was a follow-up meeting between MCC and JICS at the Bloemfontein offices at JICS, at which the SAPS was not present. And then on the 8th of March, we received the JICS interim report. Lastly, honourable committee members, cooperation with the DCS, and a reminder here that there is permanently stationed at the Mangaung Correctional Facility a controller, a deputy controller, and 5 DCS staff members. We informed the DCS of the fire just after 4 in the morning. As I mentioned before, the DCS controller arrived at 04:57, and the area commissioner arrived at 6 o'clock in the morning. We handled the incident and we reported the incident in accordance with contractually stipulated procedures. Relevant documentation was completed in terms of legislation and contractual requirements. 2 days later, on the 5th of May, all additional documents requested by the DCS controller were provided to the controller by MCC. And in the months that followed, there was regular interaction between DCS via the controller and MCC. And this culminated in MCC delivering its final investigation report to the DCS on the 30th of March. Honourable Chair, allow me just to speak on the observation notice that we received from the DCS on the 28th of February of this year before I conclude. And maybe just for the benefit of everyone, an observation notice is the official process through which the DCS escalates any perceived incidents of non-compliance to MCC. The observation notice that we received stated that 10 months prior to the date of the observation notice, a vehicle had passed through the Sally Port, which is a vehicle gate that you pass from outside the secure part of the facility to the secure part of the facility, without a gate pass. This incident happened on the 29th of April 2022. As I mentioned, we received the notification from the DCS on the 28th of February 2022. This observation notice was based by the DCS on a sworn affidavit it had received from a G4S staff member around I believe it was mid-November of 2022. We immediately launched an investigation into the events cited in this observation notice. As I said, we were only made aware of this observation notice recently, and for that reason our investigation is still ongoing. And we will provide our response and our conclusions from our investigation to the DCS within the timeframes agreed with the DCS. Honourable Chair, I draw attention to this observation notice simply because the date of the incident is the 29th of February 2022, which predates the fire at Mangaung Correctional Centre by a few days. Honourable Chair, allow me to conclude. MCC immediately notified the SAPS on the 4th of May 2022 regarding concerns relating to the petrol smell. This is something of concern to us. We felt that this is not something normally associated with a suicide, and we immediately drew the attention of SAPS to this fact. From the outset and throughout, MCC and G4S have cooperated fully with the authorities. MCC and G4S also ensured that the authorities had full access to information. G4S acted immediately to investigate the incident. As I mentioned before, our investigation started on the morning of the incident, 3rd of May 2022, and we moved quickly to suspend the employees who had not followed our very clear policies and procedures. And the first suspension started 3 days, on the 6th of June 2022. On that same day, we notified the DCS of the suspension. We also notified GICS of the suspension on the 3rd of August 2022. Neither G4S nor MCC have made any findings or statements regarding the identity of the body, as this is the sole responsibility of the authorities. On the 2nd of February 2023, G4S was informed by GICS of a possible escape, and as I mentioned, this was the first time that we were shown the DNA report, a report that was dated mid-2022. G4S and MCC welcome the opportunity to present to this committee today. Honourable Chair, without a summons, as I mentioned at the start, we would have broken the law by sharing this information with you today. As Mr. Munyanti said during his presentation, MCC has been one of the most secure correctional centres in South Africa over the past 22 years. 1st of July this year is the 22nd anniversary of the facility. It continues to be a well-run correctional centre, as is reflected in the GICS reports and the other reports that have flowed from oversight entities. It operates under the daily control, I don't want to say control, but the daily presence of DCS and GICS officials present at the facility. Lastly, I'd like to say, Honourable Chair and Honourable Committee members, we take this opportunity to express our deepest sympathy with the victims of Thabo Bester and with their families. Honourable Chair, I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for the presentations. Honourable members, as we have agreed, we are going to give each member 30 minutes to interact with the presentations. If you have not concluded within 30 minutes, and one member of your party still has time for you, that can be credited to your time. Can I note the following members? Honourable Ramulubeng, Honourable okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, in that order. Or 8. No. He comes. When he comes. Thank you very much. Honorable Ramulubeng, 30 minutes.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning to colleagues present, honorable members. And let me also welcome the G4S, who would have expected them in the last meeting without forcing them to be here. Chair, I understand when they made a presentation, they make an indication that they would have acted against the law for sharing this information that we've been presented with right now. So they needed to be summoned so that they are protected or given immunity of that information. I don't quite agree with that. You needed the immunity for something else, not for sharing the information that you just did. The information that you have given us, actually, it's public knowledge by now. We did an unannounced visit last week. All that you have given us, we've gotten it at that unannounced visit. In actual fact, some of the things that you would have spoken to, they contradict one another. The times don't speak to each other. For me, it's pure lie. And we have a legal rep here whom there are consequences for lying to us. Chair, the report for me is a whitewash. They exonerate themselves, G4S, in this report. There are a number of standard operational procedures that the center must do that were not followed, hence led to the escape. There are a number of security lapses in the process that are glaring and unaccounted for in the report given to us. There seem to be no management oversight on the whole operations of the center because of the report does not speak. Since the process, the escape or the attempts or all those things, what is that the management has done? And what has been the oversight of that management throughout the process? For me, he keeps on saying, we've done a lot. We've provided authorities with information we've given. There's no accountability to say, here we've erred. Here it's our mistake that led to this. So hence I'm saying, I'm actually becoming...
Honorable Ramulubeng, sorry to interrupt. Maybe you should ask questions and make observations when you are done with questions.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to put it there so that when I raise questions, they're able to be backed up where they're coming from. Because if I don't want to make this baseless remarks that are not informed by questions. And I'm saying this because, Chair, I went to Mangaung, and the good part of it is that was my second visit to the center. And the center manager took us through on an official oversight. I know your bed space of 2928. When we were there, Chair, there was also an indication that there were 3 escapes that they were mentioned when we asked if previously had the center had any escapes outside the Bester issue. There was an issue mentioned that there were 3 escapes, and then one was the one that was never traced or brought back. My question is, who are those people that have escaped? Because it seems there is a trend of escapes, including the one currently in December, of someone that escaped from the hospital, who was then brought back. My reasoning for this is that it might be that the Bester issue would have gone out of hand because of it's a high-profile case. And then there's other ones, because of they're not high-profile, we never got to know about them. Were these escapes outside Bester reported, especially to the DCS or to the DCS controller, who is based in Mangaung? That's my first question, Chair.
Thank you. Answer?
Honourable Chair, I'll ask Mr. Bielefeld to provide the Honourable Member with details. There was an escape in 2003. Then there was the inmate Bester, what we now know to be an inmate Bester escape in May 2022. And then there was also an incident from a health facility where an inmate was temporarily held for medical care in December 2022. But Mr. Bielefeld can give the Honourable Member further details.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I can just report that these, as requested, was reported to the Central Services Controller on site. It was investigated. The case of 2003, we were found guilty by the Supervisory Committee, and a fine was posted on the contractor for that incident. And the other two incidents are currently still pending. The one of the escape from the hospital outside, and then the best one that came on the court now.
Was the DCS controller based in Mangaung informed, or the DCS in totality of the two escapes?
The DCS controller was informed because he is the representative of the National Commissioner at the centre, Honourable Member.
Thank you. Chair, they make mention that the fire broke at 4 o'clock in the morning. And based on our visit when we went there and the footage that we saw, it says the fire broke at 2:30 a.m. And then 2:59, it was reported that the fire broke. Which is which? 4 o'clock, that gets to be reported. The CCTV footage that we have seen with honourable members that were present on the site on the day says 2:30, the fire broke. 2:59, it was reported. And 2:30 exactly, the two gentlemen who you spoke of were seen running towards that main block. So how do two people run when the fire, it shows on the CCTV that it has broke, but it gets to be reported at 4 o'clock? Which one is it? Thanks, Chair.
Honourable Member, if I can answer you to that, there was two reports that night. A report at 3 o'clock that reported there was a fire. It was investigated by the supervisor, Senoi. It formed part of the reason why he was suspended and found guilty and dismissed, as he did not investigate that properly. The reason why the 4 o'clock is this is when the official incident happened, what led to the investigation. So that's why there's 4 o'clock on the document. There was an incident of 3 o'clock, I confirm that, and it's in the same time that the two officials that we referred to, or two persons, was viewed on the camera for a few seconds on the video footage that was shown to the committee.
Why are you telling us that 2:30, 2:59 the fire broke? It was then reported at 4 o'clock. Why are you giving us 4 o'clock at the fire broke?
Because that's the official time that the fire broke, Your Honourable Member, that
But that
led
is
to the
not.
incident.
That is not. The CCTV footage says 2:59 it was reported from your controller room. 2:30 fire broke. You are saying here 4 o'clock fire broke. Why are you not saying to us that at 4 o'clock in terms of your documentation and your administrational processes, that's when it was recorded? You are confirming that 3 o'clock indeed it broke, but you are writing to us here in black and white that it's 4 o'clock.
Honourable Member, I can only I'm sorry that 3 o'clock is not included in the document. It was, however, included in our investigation. It was looked at, and as I've indicated, that gave the reasons why we acted against the employees.
Okay, what happened to the two guys that were running across the building at 2:59 who were spotted? Where do you assume they ended up? And what happened afterwards? Did you try to trace them and see who are those possible two people? And can you, not in essence assuring us, give an indication that perhaps one of them might have been Bester running across?
Honourable Member, I cannot conclude that one of them was not Bester. It was indicated that it was impossible as a result of the video footage that only showed that few seconds to determine who the two people was. The video footage is very blurry and for a few seconds, and that's why we indicated that it's unknown, and we've reported that to SAPS to include in the investigation that has been reported to them.
There were two controllers, operators who were controlling the control room on the night of the fire or on the night of the incident. What happened to them? What was happening to them when the fire broke? Because of that, the ones who were controlling the whole center.
Honourable Member, they were both investigated, found to be not in line with policies and procedures. Both of them were suspended and then afterwards dismissed. So they're not in the employ of the company anymore.
When was this? The dismissal, the investigation, when did they start?
The investigation started on the 3rd of May. The suspension started on the 6th of June. And the one was dismissed on the 6th of December, and the other one on the 31st of January 2023.
So the investigation started on the 3rd and 6th of May. Am I correct?
The investigation started with affidavits being taken on the 3rd of May already, the day of the incident. Yes, Honourable.
And then the first suspension was when?
6th of June.
The 6th of, so when you started investigation 6th of June, also getting the autopsy report from SAPS, you had an indication, you might have been aware that this was an escape. In actual fact, the body that burned in the cell was not entirely of Bester.
Honourable Member, I can confirm that we never received the autopsy report. The first time we received it was with the meeting with Chicks, as indicated in the presentation by my colleague.
Okay. I want to ask this. Based on your contract with DCS or with the state, are you not in breach of it, especially with these escapes? Or in somehow holding the information? Because from my records and the unannounced visit we did, from these investigations that you have carried out or you have done, they make a recollection that says around June, when you started dismissing or suspending employees or officials that they're working on the said day, you had an idea that this was an escape, and you did not even inform authorities or the DCS in that matter. So, hence you would have you wanted to be summoned to this meeting so that you are protected with what you are going to say here, so that it's not used against you outside. Is this why you wanted to be summoned in this meeting? Not the legal issue of being on the, don't bring that rhetoric, please.
Honourable Chair, we did not want to be summoned to seek immunity for fear of what we will say to this committee. In terms of the Correctional Services Act, and in terms of the contract that we have with BCC, and the contract BCC in turn has with the Department of Correctional Services, we are legally restricted from talking to any third party regarding the operations of the Mangaung facility. All information that we have regarding that facility has to go to the outside world, for lack of a better word, through the DCS. And that is the sole reason why we sought a summons, because the summons allows us to say to this committee what we cannot say to anyone other but the DCS. We did not seek immunity for fear of saying something today that would incriminate ourselves.
Okay, can I put it this bluntly? Do you agree this is a breach of contract between the two, between DCS and G4S, with this escapes?
Honourable Member, I don't know if it's a breach or not. I think one will need to look at the contract. I think it's clear, as Mr. Bielefeld has said, or Mr. Munyante has said, that in 22 years of operations, we have had 3 incidences of escape. Now, no incidents of escape should be condoned. These are serious matters.
Chair, he's not answering me. I'll pass on that, because this is a breach. How you put it in jargons, it's still a breach of contract between G4S and DCS. The night that Thabo, Bester, applied for isolation for his own safety. That's what we're told. That he applied for his own safety on the basis that he feared that he did not pay for the protection fee or whatever, then he needed to be taken away to isolation, which in terms of segregation. This was done on the 15th of April, 2022, 2 weeks before, the actual day of the fire. He was in South 16th Street, 2 Walls unit, before he moved to segregation. And upon moving to segregation, whilst his paperwork was still pending approval to guarantee him to be in segregation, he was automatically moved to cell 35. And when he was taken to cell 35, there was an inmate already in that cell 35 who was moved for Thabo to be taken in. Who was in charge of that process of approval? And why did we move Bester to 35 whilst he was supposed to be at holding cells, waiting approval to be taken in? Who deals with that approval? And why did we take that decision of taking him pending the approval?
Honourable Member, I'll ask Mr. Beineveld to answer that question in terms of the process that was applied. I just want to correct one date that you mentioned. Inmate Bester applied to be moved to Broadway on the 30th of April and not, as you suggested, on the 15th of April.
Then it means you officials of G4S and management are not speaking. Mr. Ndondolo, who took us to an unannounced visit last week on Wednesday, we're in Bloemfontein in Mangaung, indicated that Thabo Bester applied on the 15th of April. He was moved to isolation, and we were taken through that process. You see, I speak on authority because of I was there. I'm able to detect, and whilst we were there, I was taking notes. I normally use my phone for taking notes. So, Mr. Ndondolo, it's unfortunate you did not bring him here. And we did ask him last week that would like G4S to bring Ndondolo here so that what we say here and what he would have said to us there, they're able to correlate. He makes mention, my colleagues are with me here, that 15th of April, Thabo Bester applied for isolation in fear of his life.
Apologies, Honourable Member. I thought that you mentioned that on 15th of April, Mr. Bester was moved to Broadway. So my apologies for that. You were referring to the date he applied to be moved.
Yes, he applied on the 15th, even pending even when you moved him to segregation. His papers were pending approval. He was not approved, but he was moved already.
Okay.
Why was he put in isolation whilst his papers were pending approval?
Okay.
Who authorized for that?
Okay, I will hand over to Mr. Beineveld, who can give you all the information.
Honourable Member, I can possibly give a little bit of light on that. There was 2 times that Mr. Bester requested to be removed to Broadway segregation. The first time was on 15th of April, as mentioned by you correctly. But after 2 days, he cancelled his own safety application and went back to the unit. And then on the 30th, he applied again to go back to Broadway.
Was this planned? Because from a sense we got when we got there is that normally cell 35 is not being used because of it's in the blind spot. Cameras or the video footage do not cover. So in any case, we even did that walk. You can come into isolation, walk, take the stairs to cell 35, and the camera will not capture you because of it's in the blind spot. Even when you go out, only a person that knows that that is cell 35 will be able to identify it on the CCTV. Who authorized for him to be put in that blind spot? And why did an inmate that was in there removed for him to go in? Wouldn't it was possible for him to be allocated in a cell that was empty? Because already Ndondolo made an indication that there was an inmate in 35, meaning they took that inmate to another cell to put Thabo Bester. So there was an orchestration of a plan for him to escape.
Honourable Member, Mr. Beineveld can answer your question, but I want to state that there was an inmate in cell 35 on the morning of the 2nd of May. That inmate applied to be sent back to the normal part, the multi-accommodation part of the prison. That inmate applied on that day, and according with his wishes, he was reallocated. That inmate was not moved to make, to accommodate inmate Bester in that area or in that cell. That cell happened to become available on that day.
So you're saying the cell was empty when Bester was moved in?
An inmate was moved, to my knowledge, from that cell.
I'm saying, was the cell empty when Bester was moved in?
Yes,
So there was no one. The person that had applied to be moved was already moved.
Yes, Honourable.
This contradicts what your officials were saying. A person was moved on the actual day that Bester was brought in. So what we are saying, it's a total contradiction, Chair.
No, it's not a contradiction, Honourable Member. The question was the cell empty when inmate Bester was moved into the cell? And I can confirm it is, because it's a single cell. Only one inmate can be housed there. What I added, Honourable Member, is that that morning, the person who was in that cell on the night of the 1st of May into the 2nd of May applied to be moved back, to be moved out of Broadway. That inmate was moved, and that made cell 35 temporarily vacant on the day of the 22nd.
The day that Bester was moved in,
Yes.
coincidentally.
I cannot comment on the coincidence,
No,
Honourable
it's fine.
Member.
Chair, we equally find out that the server or the switchboard for cameras, which you are able to tamper with, switch off and switch on. The report makes an indication from that 1939, the camera or CCTV footage ceased to operate, and they resumed operating at 4:10 in the morning. The incident started to happen at 2:30, subsequently to 2:59 or to 3 o'clock in the morning. Was not captured because of the system was not working. Whilst we were there was an official from Integriton who operates your machines, was able to take us through that you are able to tamper with the system not to work. You are able to tamper with the system not to work. And in that sense, for the unit where Bester was in isolation, and you can tamper with it, there is where that controller is there. And there was a person, when you read reports, that was asked by officials to switch off. From your view, from your point of view as G4S, after conducting the investigation, can you say that that system was tampered with for us to be able to lose 19:38 p.m. up until 4:10 early in the morning, for us not to have a footage at all?
Honourable Member, on that question, I can only indicate that we're not technology specialists. Therefore, we requested Integritron to give us a proper report. That's the people that's responsible for the system. In according to the report that they gave us, there was a power failure due to the batteries of the UPS system that was not functional properly. And if somebody that tempered with that, that they couldn't supply us with, so we had to work with a document that was submitted by the specialists on this.
Chair, there was an inmate that wrote a letter to the President and the Minister seeking audience on the event of the escape in detail. And we have an email coming from G4S officials that it makes an indication that that letter must not be entertained. In essence, no complaint must be entertained to official. Why was the letter of that inmate held? And this inmate, I don't want to mention the inmate's name. Why was it held, and where is the inmate?
Honourable Member, maybe I can respond to that question. If one reads on that email that was sent regarding this letter, the lady who has responded to that, she was redirecting that complaint to say, if that is the complaint, the inmate needs to use the prepaid envelope system to can send that complaint to the relevant party. She was not necessarily saying that letter must not go out. Thank you, Honourable Member.
Why didn't she reroute that letter, seeing that the inmate did not use those prescribed standards for him to send that letter? Because of that letter contains, it's someone who's willing to come forth with evidence that this is not suicide or anything, it's an escape. Why did we hold the letter? Because of whoever has seen that letter, obviously has read the contents. Why did we keep it?
Honourable Member, according to what we have learned regarding this letter, the letter had nothing to do with this matter of Bester. The content of the letter, according to the information we received, it was an inmate who was requesting to be provided with the footage of the use of planned force that was applied on him. And then that request was denied. But the sending of the letter was redirected to say, don't use the means that you are using, rather use your prepaid envelope, which will be administered at the Inmate Information System Office. That will then be sent to the relevant office.
When did you learn of the escape?
Honorable Member, you have 5 minutes.
When did you learn of the escape? When did you realize this was actually an escape?
Honourable Member, during the JICS meeting that I referred to on the 2nd of February of this year, JICS mentioned to us that they suspect that inmate Bester had escaped. And it's only in reading the SAPS papers prepared for purposes of this committee, dated the 4th of April, it's only in those papers that we saw that SAPS had, I believe on the 14th of January, my date might be wrong, but it was somewhere mid-January, opened a case of escape relating to inmate Bester.
Why are we not making sure that all the units are covered with CCTVs and video? Why did we leave the cell 35 in the blind spot and we left it at that, especially the cells at the back?
Honourable Member, just to can respond on that, according to our knowledge, the design of the prison, it has been designed and specified like that from the inception, before it was even built. Thank you.
I'll take my colleagues' time, Chair. I'll rephrase my questions. Whoever from my colleagues who did not finish, I'll come in. Thank you. Chair, I'm trying to reroute my questions correctly now. Which ones they've answered so that I come back with the follow-ups. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I will leave her some time so that she can get that back when I speak.
Okay. You have been credited with some time by Honorable Janche, but
Thank you.
second round.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, I would plead with G4S not to answer my questions with apologies, because I won't forgive them. One, every report points out that the incident broke out at 3 a.m. You come here, you speak about 4 a.m. How would you react to a statement that says, you are a private company in private-public partnership with the state that is dishonest, that came and deliberately misled the People's Parliament? What would be your reaction to that?
Honourable Chair, committee member, I would disagree with that statement. We have tabled to the committee all the facts available to us. I can ask Mr. Bielefeld to fill you in on the events of the fire, because he investigated this. He's much better briefed than what I am. But what I can say to you is, when there were reports of smoke, they were ignored, and to our knowledge, the fire was detected at 4 o'clock that morning. The individuals who were manning the control
So you still maintain that fire was detected at 4 o'clock?
There was smoke detected at 3 o'clock. That was not.
So fire started 2:30, but your smoke detectors detect that fire at 4 a.m.
Honourable Member,
Is that what you're saying?
Honourable Member, I have no knowledge, and I don't know what the source is that suggests that the fire started
And
at
the
2:30.
fire is an emergency. So whatever system you put as an emergency system reports an emergency immediately. So you say fire breaks out at 2:30 a.m., but your detectors detected at 4 a.m. Is that honesty? Is that the kind of honesty you want to bring to this parliament and the people of South Africa?
Honourable Member, as I said before, I have no knowledge and I have no proof that the fire started at 2:30.
Okay, fine. Was Bester moved to cell 35 on the 28th of April or on the 30th?
He was, well, I'll get Mr. Bielefeld to answer that question.
He was moved on the 30th, Honourable Member.
Okay, not a problem. The incident happens at 3 a.m. Reported to police at 11 minutes past 6 a.m. What were you doing with the corpse, with these corpse in between this time? Are you forensic pathologist?
Honourable Member, and again, Mr. Bielefeld can take you through the events of that morning, but
Yeah.
allow me to say that our first response was to extinguish the fire. Once the fire had been extinguished, and the door had to be opened to extinguish the fire fully, the cell was cordoned off, and no one entered that cell, to my knowledge, other than the nurse and the doctor, who had to attend to the person, until the police arrived. The scene, to my knowledge, was not contaminated until the police arrived. But I can say to you the police were called.
So you mean you have no obligation of reporting to police a life-threatening emergency whilst it still happens? You wait until it calms down, then you can report it. Is that what you are saying on record?
Not at all. The fire was detected. The fire personnel were immediately dispatched to the cell, and the fire was put out. That was our immediate emergency, was to put the fire out. The second emergency was to attend to the person in that cell. That was the second emergency.
What were you doing? What do you mean attend?
To see whether the person was still alive and could be saved. Those two matters, in our view, took precedence, and only then was it important to call the police services. And perhaps Mr. Bielefeld can confirm whether some of these actions took place concurrently. But Honourable Member, our first priority was to put out the fire for fear that it could spread, and the second priority was to attend to the person in that cell.
Sorry, Honorable Ola. I think you raise an important point, and I don't want us to pass without clarity on that particular point. Honorable Ngola says the fire broke out at 2:30, and your systems by 4 o'clock had not picked up that. Would you conclude that that will be at least a gross incompetency?
Honourable Chair, I'll ask Mr. Monyanti to answer that question, and perhaps he should start by informing the committee of the fire system, if any, that we have in the facility.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Member, I would like to highlight that in the whole entire center, we don't have any smoke detectors. We are heavily relying on the human beings when they pick up unusual behaviors to can report. Thank you.
So what does he mean when he say the smoke was detected at 4 a.m. if you have no smoke detectors?
Honorable Member, what we are trying to say is, based on the video recording that we have, seen the time slots that are appearing on the screen, that's where the times are quoted from. Not necessarily to say we've got a fire detector in all the sections. We don't have such in that present.
Fine, Chair. We'll attend to TCS to check if such a kind of facilities do qualify to be in the PPP without a smoke detector. The second question, Chair, is around the issue of what your security solutions expert says. That a man enters the server of some kind at almost 20 to 8 p.m. on the 2nd of April 2022. Now, DVRs are not working until 11 minutes past 4 in the morning after you have actually detected the smoke. But that it further says, when there is a malfunction in the DVRs, it automatically reports to the control room operators. Was it reported? Who was working at the control room during that night of the incident? Has this reported to the control rooms? If the answer is not in the affirmative, why did the DVRs not report the malfunction to the control room operators?
Honourable Member, Mr. Beideveld can tell you who was in the control room that evening. What I can say to you is, of the 3 members that we suspended very soon after the incident, and of the 3 members that we dismissed for not following policies and procedures, 2 of them operated the control room that night. Mr. Beileveld can give you the names of those individuals.
The one was a lady, Natasha Jansen. The other person was Frans Makotsa. Those were the 2 people that was working in there. And then, just on clarification, Honourable Member, the system do not give you a report that the recordings are not working. I can confirm that, and you can determine that as well by asking the question to Integriton, who will be available to you. Because as far as my knowledge concerned, and in the investigation, that does not appear on the screen if the recordings are not working.
That's fine, let's pass. Did you do a forensic investigation on what actually caused the fire? If the answer is in the affirmative, what are the findings of that forensic investigation? What actually caused the fire inside the prison cell?
Honourable Member, no, we did not do a forensic investigation. As I
So
said,
you don't know what caused the fire in the prison cell?
no, we don't.
Okay,
As I
no,
said,
leave it like that. You don't know what caused the fire in the prison cell. You are operating.
we suspected the accelerant.
No, we are not going to operate on suspicions. I am saying you do not know what caused the fire in a prison cell. You are operating.
Honourable Member, I'm trying to answer your question.
No, you said you did not do any forensic investigation,
And
and you don't know what caused the fire. What are you answering now?
I want to explain why we didn't do a forensic investigation. As
2
I said-
seconds. My time is running.
As I said during my presentation, there were 3 very clear investigations that followed. I mentioned that MCC, it's not within our remit and it's not within our skill set to perform a forensic investigation or a pathological investigation of anything of that kind. We don't have a
Thank you.
criminal
I think you have
investigation
covered the
remit.
question. Thank you very much. I want to ask you a very, very unpopular or popular question. And I want to plead with you to answer honestly. Thabo Pester gets convicted by a court of law. Amongst those things that is convicted of is the robbery with aggravating circumstances and other economic crimes. Are you a cash in transit company?
Honourable Member, I am here to answer truthfully. To your question,
No, just answer this one.
To your-
Are you a cash in transit company,
G4S is a multinational group.
including cash in
And
transit?
within that group, and particularly in South Africa, we do have a cash in transit and a cash processing business.
Thabo Pester is convicted, sentenced for robbery with aggravating circumstances, Chair. is taken to a prison cell in a facility that is run by a cash-in-transit company, and later there is an orchestration of a faked death in the same facility. I will submit my views about it in the committee deliberations, Chair, not now. Let's go down. You say part of the things you have found in the prison cell where the alleged offender died is the cell phone and the laptop. And you say the laptop was authorized. And reports across the world say Thabo Bester was running a multi-billion company inside a prison cell. What was the laptop authorized to do in a cell in a prison cell? What was the purpose for the authorization of a laptop inside a prison cell? What was the intention?
Honourable Member, I will answer and then I'll ask my colleague to give you further information. Inmates who study, who have a study formal, who are registered students, have the right, and I believe it's in terms of court cases that the DCS lost in 2015 and 2018. They have the right, if they are registered with a formal institution of learning, to have access to a laptop, and for that reason, inmate Bester had access to that laptop.
Okay, that's fine. Let's pass there.
Maybe Honorable Ngola, with which institution was he registered?
He was registered with Damlin.
Was the laptop belong to him or to DCS or to G4S?
I'll ask my colleague
To whom did the laptop belong?
Honourable Member, the laptop belonged to him.
To him.
That's correct.
Do our correctional centers provide personal laptop to offenders who are studying within? Because you must understand that we talk from a point where we have crisscrossed the country going to correctional centers. What we find there are laptops that are organized by DCS for their own students. Why was Thabo Bester with his personal laptop? How did it enter the prison facility?
Honourable Member, I'll ask Mr. Munyanti to explain to you the controls that are put in place when a laptop is brought into the facility for use by an inmate to ensure that that laptop is used exclusively for study purposes.
Honourable Member,
But before you go there, I think the question was why. Before you move to the security features, let's start with the first question. Let's start answering the first question.
Honourable Member, can I request you to repeat the first question?
The first question was that you authorized an inmate to have a laptop inside a prison cell. What were the reasons behind that? And your honourable colleague speaks about something related to education. And we're trying to talk to him that we have visited prison cells where student inmates do not use their personal laptops, but those of DCS or whoever is running the prison facility. Why was he specially given his personal laptop, which you may not know if he actually used that laptop to commit those crimes?
Honourable Member, I can confirm that not only Bester was allowed to have...
No, let's talk about Baxter. Let's leave other inmates. Let's talk about Baxter. Why was he allowed to have his personal laptop when you ran a risk of giving him a tool he used to commit the crimes? Why?
Honourable Member, the reasons are he qualified.
What are the qualifications?
Based on the criteria that we have set to say before we can allocate a laptop to an inmate, there needs to be evidence that he has registered with an institution and the qualification in which he is studying. We are able to take note of that in our prison. Therefore, those are the reasons that prompted us to allow Bester to be in possession of the laptop.
Chair, thank you. You took the inmate wherever he was serving his sentence, whatever cell it is. Because the only popular cell now is cell 35, Minister. It's very popular. It's known by everyone that there in Mangaung there is cell 35. I think we need to... You took him on the basis of whatever reason. We're going to go to those reasons as well. You take him and isolate him from other prisoners, take him alone, segregate him. So, is the solitary confinement and segregation of inmates legal?
Honourable Member, Section 30 of the Correctional Services Act stipulates that an inmate can apply for own safety reasons to be kept in a single cell. And in our case, that needs to be approved by the Department of Correctional Services person on site, and that was the case in Bester's situation.
Was that single cell not segregation or solitary confinement?
No, it was
Do you not call it what you did there? Do you not call it a solitary confinement?
No.
Or a segregation?
No, Honourable Member, it's been called own,
Fine, then.
own safety.
Fine, let's go to the reasons. Part of the reasons you actually mention is that Thabo Bester could not pay his protection fee to a 26 gang, which is something completely illegal within prison cells. But you approve it. You approve an application on the basis of illegal operations inside correctional centers. Is that not a way of you approving the gangsterism that is happening in those prison cells?
Honourable Member, I'll ask Mr. Manyanti to answer that. I just want to clarify, I did not make the statement regarding...
You did not what?
I did not make the statement regarding the 26 gang during the session this morning.
Honourable Member, it's not to say we are promoting gangsterism. The reasons that are provided to us by inmates, even if we've got a view that this reason is not so legitimate, but we cannot take a risk and deny that inmate that opportunity, because if the inmate is of the view that his life is in danger, we need to be cautious. We really need to take an urgent step. And for the inmate to apply to be kept in single cell, it is a formal process that we need to follow. There was nothing wrong with the administration and the placement of the inmate in the single cell.
So you chose to isolate the inmate under threat and not deal with those who are threatening him.
Honourable Member, at that moment we were dealing with the application, and the application from the applicant was that his life is in danger, and therefore the Correctional Services Act gave us a direction to say how must we deal with such applications. That's why we then went to Section 30 and followed the direction of the...
What did you do to those who are alleged to be the 26 gang inside the prison cell? Did you do anything?
Honourable Member, according to my knowledge...
Those who threatened Thabo Bester, did you do anything with them?
At this moment, I don't have that information.
You did nothing. The last issue, Chair, I want to cover is the last issue, and I'm sure I'm still fine in terms of time. You take Mr. Bester to cell 35. Firstly, do you agree that cell 35 is a blind spot from cameras? Do you agree?
It's not a blind spot, Honourable Member, but it's poorly seen on TV because the camera is a little bit far from that point, but you can see...
What is a blind spot? What do you how do you define a blind spot?
A blind
in your
spot
own understanding?
A blind spot is where you can see nothing, sir.
Okay. Do you agree that cell 35 is next to an emergency exit? Do you agree?
Agree, your Honourable Member.
Okay. Why did you put Bester next to an emergency exit, as though that you anticipated that there is going to be an emergency? Why?
On the placement of inmate Bester at that point, there was no information available that indicated that a possible incident may happen. And it's an approved cell that is developed by and built as in accordance with the specifications as received from government on how the centre must be built. It was approved by government in that situation, and therefore the cell was used because it was available.
The question is it not coincidence that you took Thabo Bester to next to an emergency exit, and immediately a day after there was an emergency and he exited until he was caught in Tanzania? Is it not coincidence?
In hindsight, Honourable Member, it could like coincidence, but as informed, during the incarceration, during the movement of inmate Bester, there was no information available that led to anybody thinking that putting him in that cell will rise to the incident that happened on the 2nd and 3rd of May.
Okay. Chair, I will submit to the committee that Thabo Bester was deliberately taken to next to an exit because the escape was thoroughly planned. But I'll do that when the committee deliberates for us to take the report to the National Assembly. Thabo Bester makes an application on the 15th of April. On the 16th of April, Thabo Bester receives a secret visit. Who is this person who visited Bester on the 16th of April? Name him. The person who visited Bester on the 16th of April 2022, who is that? You don't know.
Perhaps, Honourable Chair, I can ask my colleagues, do you have knowledge of a visit, regardless of the person on that day, to inmate Bester?
I can confirm that his visit record proved no visit on that specific day.
Chair, I will submit to the committee deliberations that Bester had a secret visitor on the 16th of April 2022, and G4S is dishonest. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. On the issue of the computer, what measures have you put in place to ensure that people who are using their private computers, those computers cannot be used for any other unlawful activity?
Honourable Chair, according to the direction of this ruling from the court, it says those laptops that are provided to inmates must not have a modem. So the measures that we have put in place is that we need to have a proof that indeed has registered with the institution, which we can also confirm. And then after that, we do provide the laptop to the learner.
How many times do you check the laptop?
Honourable Member, we don't physically check the laptop, but from our IT system office, they've got a screen where they monitor the use of these laptops if the students are using their laptops in the school.
Thank you very much. Honourable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I'd like to start off with a comment to G4S.
Honourable Breitenbach, can you move closer to the mic?
I can't move these chairs, unfortunately. So, you've provided us with a 21-page report, because on page 22 you say thank you. So, 21-page report that's largely exculpatory. In fact, it's completely exculpatory. It acknowledges no responsibility for this incident. You tell us how you have followed the correct processes that you should follow, and how you've cooperated ex post facto with a variety of institutions which are questioned, but nevertheless. And that's what you tell us. You don't tell us what happened, how this happened, what you've done about what happened. There's absolutely no indication in this report that G4S accepts any responsibility for the fact that until yesterday, there was a serial murderer and rapist on the run. Can you tell me why that is?
Honourable Member, as I mentioned, when it comes to the investigation of what happened that night, we could only investigate what happened under our control, what happened at the MCC that night. And I believe that investigation we have done. We have determined who the people under our control are who did not comply with policies and procedures that evening that may have contributed to the escape. We suspended them and we dismissed them. Incidentally, they have taken their suspensions to the CCMA for review. So they disagree with the decisions that we arrived at. But as far as the initial investigation around a suicide is concerned, and we need to remind ourselves that was the initial facts that we had to deal with. And then later the murder investigation, as far as that's concerned, those are criminal and forensic matters that we do not have the skills, nor I guess the permission to investigate. Our obligation is to investigate internally, to deal with those individuals, and to pass that information to the police services so that they can take that information and assist them with their investigations. I think, Honourable Member, with respect, it's harsh to say that we did nothing.
Well, harsh, not harsh, be that as it may, it's my view. You can like it, you can lump it, don't really care. So, you're saying we complied with protocols and procedures and that's it, we stand back and we have no further obligation here. So your job is merely to incarcerate people, make sure that your bed count is full, and come what may. Is that what you're telling me?
No, that's not what I'm telling you.
Well, it appears to be what you're telling me.
No. We investigated the actions of those under our control. We suspended them and we dismissed them.
I see. You're aware of the fact that there's a view at DCS that you in fact suspended and fired and transferred a whole bunch of people so that DCS couldn't get hold of them to in fact do their own investigation. Have you got a comment on that?
I'm not aware of those. Perhaps my colleagues have knowledge of transfers.
Well, perhaps you or one of your colleagues can tell me who was investigated, who was suspended, who was fired, and who was transferred, and why.
Mr. Beideveld can
And I would have expected to find those details in this report, not this whitewash, quite frankly. So I'd like to hear from you then, Mr. Beideveld. Can you help me?
Honourable Member, firstly, the night supervisor in charge, Mr. Sonoy Matswara, was suspended and fired. Dismissed, using the wrong word. Then Natasha Janssen, the operator in the control room, was suspended and dismissed. Tix Makotsa, the person in the control room with Natasha that night, was suspended and dismissed. No employees of us is being transferred. Yes, we did indeed suspend these employees, but information can be made available to the committee where the controller requested to see these people. He's given the times to us and we've arranged with those people to come back to the centre to see the controller on site for his investigation.
Do you do lifestyle audits on your employees? I don't know, pick a straw, whichever one of you is going to answer.
Honourable Member, we don't do any life audit.
Why not?
We really don't have any reason to do the lifestyle audit on our employees.
I beg your pardon? Do you want to repeat that?
Yes, we don't see any reason to do the lifestyle audits on our employees.
You employ people to look after hardened criminals. Your facility looks after, it's a maximum security facility, right? So we're not looking at shoplifters. And you don't think it's necessary to do lifestyle audits on your staff?
Honourable Member.
I'm busy.
Sorry.
And when I'm done, you'll have an opportunity. And don't make the mistake of interrupting me again. And you don't think it's necessary to do lifestyle audits on people who look after criminals like that, who have access to money, who are known for bribery and corruption? Are you saying your staff is above that? And if you are saying so, on what basis? Pick a straw.
Honourable Member, I can answer that when employees are being appointed at the centre, there's a full police investigation or a police report being done on them, a vetting report has been done. That vetting report with other documentation is being sent to the Department of Correctional Services, who look at the documentation, we conduct training on these employees, and then they approved to operate within the Correctional Services Act as custodial officials.
Sorry, Honorable Breitenbach, but even a security clearance or a vetting, it has got a time frame. You do it every 5 years. So if I did that vetting 20 years ago, will it still apply now? Because that is what you are saying to the question asked by Honorable Breitenbach.
Honourable Member, I cannot speculate on that. The people from our HR department that's directly dealing with the employees are unfortunately not available. So I will have to write it down and come back with the answer to Honourable Breitenbach on that one.
I presume the answer will be no. So, in this report, or this document, I hesitate to call it a report, so in this document that you've provided, that took you so long to prepare, that says nothing that's not in the public domain, took you so long to prepare that we could only get it this morning, because you only finished it around midnight last night. Just incidentally, what were you doing for the previous year, if this is what you prepared until 12 o'clock last night? All of this information must have been available on a computer somewhere, and all you had to do was print it. So what took so long? I mean, just tell me that first.
Honourable Member, we had to collate all the information. It was not all available on a single laptop. We had to collate it from various sources. We had to analyse it and put the presentation together. We also wanted it independently vetted to ensure that everything contained in this report is factually correct.
I see. You think you succeeded?
Yes, I think we have.
Wow. So I put it to you, my view is that you're evading responsibility here. You're ducking all the institutional, the systemic issues that point to your own culpability in this matter. And the only things that you've included in this report are exculpatory. I take it you don't agree.
Honourable Member, apologies, English is my second language. Can you please explain
I
the
can
word
tell
that
it
you're
to you, I can put it to you in Afrikaans if you like.
Please.
Hierdie dokumentjie wat julle as 'n verslag voorlê, is regtig nie die papier werd waarop dit geskryf is nie. Al wat julle doen is, julle probeer verantwoordelikheid vermy. Julle spreek geen aanspreeklikheid aan vir julle rol in hierdie hele gemors. Julle spreek geen aanspreeklikheid aan oor die verloop van die jaar waar daar niks gebeur het nie en hierdie moordenaar die lekker lewe gelei het. Terwyl almal geweet het, julle dalk korrektiewe dienste, verseker die staat in sy geheel, geweet het hierdie man loop rond. En julle is niks gedoen nie, julle het vir niemand gesê nie. En die ergste daarvan is, julle het nooit vir enige van sy slagoffers laat weet nie. En julle aanvaar geen aanspreeklikheid nie. Wil jy graag iets sê daaroor?
Honourable Member, thank you for clarifying. The statement is made that we're not accepting any responsibility. I cannot agree with that statement. We have disclosed that we have dismissed 3 members, and we've made that information available to the police. The police, in the last few days, arrested one of them. And I would like to think that is based on the contribution that we've made. It's not for us to link those individuals to the ultimate crime. That is for the police services to do. So I think it's incorrect to say that we did nothing, and that we do not feel that we are culpable in this. Regarding your comment about us not warning the police, warning the South African public. Again, we dealt initially, until the 25th of May, we dealt with the suicide. The 25th of May, a murder investigation was opened, still pertaining to the individual who we found in that cell. The identity at that stage, as far as we were concerned and based on knowledge available to us, was still that of Thabo Bester. And that remained the theme and the facts available certainly to us until the 2nd of February of this year, when Jig said, we're investigating a possible escape, and until it became known to us that in the very early months of this year, SAPS had opened an investigation into escape. Until then, the facts that now are available to us with hindsight, that's available with hindsight to judge our actions, were not available to us at the time.
Well, I'm glad you went there. Are you finished? Sorry.
And because of that, Honourable Member, and because of our contract with the DCS, we were not allowed to talk to the public and inform the public of a possible escape. We were not aware of an escape, and we did not have the right to talk to third parties about the activities of the Correctional Centre.
Okay, so because I only have, a very short space of 30 minutes, and I could quite honestly be here for the next 4 or 5 days, I'd like it if you could keep your answers brief, please. Thank you. So I'm glad you went to this issue of, not knowing that it was an escape. Until very recently, I think until just during the course of this month still, G4S was insisting that the body that was found in that cell was in fact Thabo Bester. That was your view. And it was articulated again to us on our visit last week. That's still your view, regardless of the inconsistencies in the post-mortem report and regardless of the practically irrefutable DNA evidence. G4S clung to this version that the body was that of Thabo Bester. Why is that?
Honourable Chair, that's based on the information that was available to us. I was not at the briefing last week, so I don't know what was said. We asked for the pathology report mid last year. We were not handed that report. It's only on the 2nd of February this year that we were given a copy of the pathology report and the DNA report. Until then, at that stage, we had no evidence other than rumors that there had been an escape or that it was not Thabo Bester who had died in that cell.
I'm sorry, please let me interrupt you because I already told you I don't have time. So keep your answers brief, answer the question, please, nothing more. A discussion we can maybe have when we both got more time. Why did G4S cling to the version that it was Thabo Bester's body in that cell, even after it was very clear to everybody else in South Africa that it wasn't? Just answer me that question.
Because we were not the primary investigating authority, and we did not have access to the prime evidence, Honourable Member.
And that's your answer?
Yes.
Wow. I wish we were in court. So You have investigated and dismissed 3 people. Are you honestly sitting here this morning telling us that this escape of Hollywood proportions, and no doubt some smart journalist is going to write a book and make a lot of money, was done with the assistance of 3 people? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm not suggesting that, Honourable Member. I'm saying that those are the individuals who did not follow policy and procedure.
That's just simply not possible. It had to have been so many more. A simple walkthrough of your facility revealed that it had to be so many more. How can you honestly sit there this morning and tell not me, not the people in this room, you're talking, I hope you understand, to the South African public who have an absolute direct interest in this matter. They have an interest in not having serial rapists and murderers running around the streets. And your job was to make sure that didn't happen, a job you failed at miserably. Do you honestly want to tell people that you think, or that you're satisfied, or that the ambit of your investigation was satisfied after 3 people were suspended and fired? Really?
That's what we are able to say at this stage, Honourable Member.
Good Lord. You'll agree with me that, just tell me, how would this propellant, this petrol, let's assume it was petrol, have gotten into the cell?
Honourable Member, we don't know.
You don't know.
We detected that and we alerted the police to that.
And where would the matches, the lighter, the whatever it is that sets the light come from?
I don't know.
You don't
Honourable
know.
Member.
And you've done nothing to find out. Cell 35 has been traversed quite thoroughly by my colleagues. But you'll agree with me that it's a massive confluence of coincidences that Bester was moved there on that particular date, to that particular cell. Right in the corner, where unless you're really paying attention, you will not see somebody walking up and down there. Because we looked, we did an experiment. And we saw the person because we were watching him. If the controller is not paying 100% attention, maybe blowing her nose or whatever, we wouldn't have seen it. Because it's the only cell that's so far away that you can't see. And not to put too fine a point on it, and no pun intended, it's right next to the fire escape. Can you tell me that that's a coincidence? Are you suggesting that that's a coincidence?
I have no information, Honourable Member, other than to regard that as a coincidence.
Yeah.
What I'm not ruling out is that certain members, together with Mr. Bester, carefully planned this event. I'm not ruling that out, but I have nothing tangible to present to you to say that this is anything other than a coincidence.
You've been investigating for a year. You've had the benefit of the JICS report, which is an excellent one. You've had the benefit of your interaction with DCS. You've had the benefit of the interaction with the South African police. And you're telling me that a year and a bit later, the best you can say is you don't rule out the possibility that this was a well-planned, monumentally logistical operation. I mean, I have a German Shepherd puppy that can come to that conclusion. There's the arson, the setting alight of whoever the poor individual was in that cell. There's the corpse substitution. Who is that person in the cell? Where did they come from? Did they come from inside the prison? Because then your head count wouldn't have matched. Did they come in from the outside? How? Did they walk in? Were they murdered in the prison? Did they come in dead? You can't answer any of these questions.
We don't know.
You don't know. A year and a bit later, you don't know.
We have provided all information pertaining to the movement of our personnel that evening to the SAPs, and it's for them to investigate
I see.
based on our information.
You have no responsibilities.
I'm not saying we have no responsibilities. I'm
Well,
saying that we have investigated
be
this
saying
matter
so.
to the extent possible.
You appear to be saying you have no responsibilities. You've done what you could. Given bits of paper to other people and that's it. Wash your hands.
Not at all.
Well, that's the impression you create. And I want to tell you it's not good enough. It's impossible to believe that this whole operation could have taken place without the greasing of many palms. Where would that money have come from? Whose palms were greased? Which of your officials are living above their means? You don't know because you don't do lifestyle audits.
No, we don't.
You don't think you should?
We need to take that recommendation to heart, Honourable Member.
How many G4S employees were on duty at that facility that night?
I'll ask my colleagues to answer that.
Good.
It was 23, Honourable Member, that was on duty.
23 people had to look the other way.
Honourable Member, the investigation proved that the 3 people that was involved, that was suspended, were there. There was 2 people that was moved by the supervisor in charge that formed part of his disciplinary offence. In hindsight, we can now do realize that they were moved to be out of sight. Then the other people were inside units which will make the viewing to that specific unit very limited.
And just days prior to this incident, a vehicle made an unauthorized entry into the prison facility, correct?
That's correct.
How come? Why?
That's currently being investigated. We've been notified by the notice that my colleague has referred to during the presentation, which we received on the 28th of February this year.
What precisely did, forgive me, but precisely what did you investigate for the past year, if you didn't know that until February? I mean, what form did your investigation take?
Honourable Member, if I may, I think the timelines here should not be overlooked. The incident, as you pointed out, happened on the 29th of April last year. It became known to the DCS through an affidavit filed by one of our employees in mid-November. This incident was raised for the first time. The DCS made that information available to us for the first time, I believe it was 3.5 months later, on the 28th of February. And it's then that we started to investigate this matter. So even though the incident happened 10 months ago, we've only had knowledge of this matter for a few weeks. And it's not that we've done nothing. We have commenced this investigation, and these investigations are very sensitive if you want to conduct them properly.
Very sensitive, you want to conduct them properly. I know a thing or two about investigations.
Secondly, the incident book, where it was recorded that the vehicle had entered and 8 minutes later had left the facility, suggests nothing untoward with that entry. So by any independent party looking at that log, they would not have detected anything untoward as far as that vehicle's entry and exit is concerned.
So your system is deficient, doesn't pick up, there's no checks and balances, doesn't pick up this kind of thing, can go undetected for a year. There could have been many more such entries and exits, who would know? So clearly your system is not foolproof. Your staff didn't report it for some odd reason. How many people are on duty at the gate? 1.
I'll ask my colleagues to, I don't know what that answer is.
There was one on duty, Honourable Member, yes, correct.
And how did the vehicle get in without authorization?
The process will still reveal it, but currently I can confirm that we've got 7 people that's suspended pending this investigation on the involvement on that specific incident.
You've had 6 weeks. So how far have you got with your investigation? Tell us, that's what you're here to do.
We've taken most of the affidavits. There was one affidavit that was still pending on an employee that wasn't available. The investigator will deal with that. And then unfortunately, the investigator that's investigating that had the operation and was out of contact for a week. Thank you.
So the vehicle came in, it was bringing in what, a kist, a box, a quasi-coffin. You agree with me? I presume your investigation has at least revealed that.
Yes, it was a TV stand cabinet that came
A
in.
TV stand cabinet, okay. And where did that TV stand cabinet go to?
It went into the skills development area, and according to the people that currently being investigated, this stand was brought in by the supervisor that is currently suspended, not suspended, being dismissed, and that came in for rectification purposes.
To be repaired. Was it repaired, do you know?
No, it was not repaired, Your Honor.
I see, and that didn't raise a red flag with anybody. A large wooden box comes into the prison in contravention of all the protocols for repair and doesn't get repaired. Didn't bother anyone?
I cannot answer on that at this stage. As I said, I will be able to answer that when the investigation has been
I
finalized.
see. Could a corpse have fitted into that TV stand?
I think so, yeah.
And it wasn't searched? It wasn't inspected?
That's one of the reasons why the employee that was working there has been suspended. Currently, he didn't do his work properly.
Yeah, but it's a year later. A bit sad, that. So your Sally Port's got all these fancy mirrors and lights and cameras and whatever. Nobody noticed on any of the cameras that the thing had come in and wasn't inspected?
Honourable Member, once again, the investigation is currently pending, but the people that's working in the CCR room that had to monitor this is also currently being suspended because they did not report it.
So the list of those whose palms were greased is getting longer. It's not just 3 people. We're standing now at around 10, is that right?
We're currently there, but remember, we're currently still busy with the investigation. And
I've got no doubt the numbers will increase.
It may be that from the 7, some of them can come back to work because you suspend to ensure that you can conduct a proper investigation without interference of people.
Honorable Breitenbach, you are left with 4 minutes. Unless you can speak nicely to Honorable Ngola. Oh, okay.
Horn is still struggling with his car's flat battery, so I'll take his 30 minutes. I've told him so, it's fine. So the list is growing and it will continue to grow. Oh, here he is now to claim his 30 minutes. I've just said I'm taking your 30 minutes, so there, you can come and settle down. So it comes into the room for the inspection that's known as the Sally Port. Come sit here. Now I want to talk to you. No inspection takes place. All these fancy mirrors, cameras, wonderful stuff, to no avail, because it's not foolproof. And there's no backup. There's no way to check. Again, the system fails. Do you agree? Pick a straw, guys.
Honourable Chair, the camera would not have detected whether the vehicle passed without a gate pass. That the camera would not have detected.
The camera would have, and the question is very simple, the camera would have detected that it wasn't inspected.
Correct.
But that wasn't detected.
It was detected by people in the video, in the what's that room called? In the control room. It was not reported on, and for that reason, those individuals have been suspended pending the investigation.
So again, the system failed.
You can say so. A system is only as good as the segregation of
Well,
duties.
the system's only as good as the people who run it, I agree with you. But if you're running a maximum security prison and you're under contract to keep the South African public safe, then I expect you to have a backup. And I expect it to work better than it did, because it didn't work, and you'll agree with me.
That's fair comment, Honourable Member.
And what about this fight that broke out elsewhere in the prison, that the people were called away to, so that only one person had to authorize the passing of this vehicle?
I'll ask my colleague to answer that.
The information is correct, Honourable Member.
Honorable Breitenbach, you are now on Mr. Horn's time.
That's fine, he's donated it to me, it's all good.
That information is correct, and as it says, currently part of our investigation to ensure that all possible steps are being taken to rectify if policies and procedures were breached and to take action in that regard.
Mr. Butterfield, I don't understand how this information could only be available now. This happened a year ago, over a year ago. And now all of a sudden, these last 6 weeks, there's this big flurry of investigations. This can't be news to you. G4S could not have lived in blissful ignorance of all these systemic failures until February this year. I don't believe you. Or is that what you're telling me? That you operated in blissful ignorance, failure after failure after failure, as long as you've handed over your forms to everybody and you've washed your hands off this matter, everything's just fine.
I cannot agree. We run a very good prison. We've run a very good facility with security. Over the years, our track record explains for itself. This unfortunate incident is a result of non-reporting, and because it was not reported and misused, we're currently investigating and taking actions to get this right and to sort it out. Thank you.
So the little box comes in, it's perfectly capable of containing a corpse, and it stays there until after the escape. When did the box leave the facility?
I had it removed during the investigation to a secure place.
When?
Can't exactly tell the date now. It was a few days after the notice of the controller was received, informing us of the incident.
So that would have been in February sometime?
No, early March, because we only received the document on the 28th of February from the controller's office.
So that box has been standing at the prison for a year, no repair work done, no questions asked, and now you've had it removed to a safe place. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And has the box been examined? Has it been forensically examined?
We've reported to the SAPS, and that's what we did because they're doing the criminal investigation on it.
I accept that you have no facility to do forensic examinations, but has the box been forensically examined? Have the police come and examine the box? It's an important piece of evidence.
They came over the weekend. On Saturday, they were at the center to have a view of the box and to take the box away.
They've taken the box away?
That was how I was informed. Unfortunately, I wasn't on site at that point.
Right. So one can only hope that the police are doing some sort of forensic investigation of the box without contaminating it. Similar to the forensic investigation of the house vacated by Bester a year later. Short one. So you say you have no record of Bester being visited on the 16th?
The record that was presented to me in the investigation on our inmate information system doesn't provide a record that he was visited on the 16th.
Is it possible that the system is incorrect?
I cannot guess on that.
I see. Well, bearing in mind that the system is being incorrect on so many other things, I suppose it could be. Is it possible to get a visit that's not recorded? A straw, time's ticking.
Honorable Member, for the data to be captured on the system, we are heavily relying on human beings. Therefore, there is also a possibility that if that visit happened, we were relying on our employees to capture that data. So if the visit happened and the data is not captured, it can't be a system problem. It should be a human being error or intentions not to capture that data.
Honourable Member, if I may, just to complete the explanation, we keep footage for only 7 days, video footage for only 7 days, so it's not possible for us to go back to the date that you mentioned to do further
I
investigation.
understand that system, but I assume that and when something happens, like a fire in a cell, you keep that video footage.
Correct.
Unfortunately, in this case, there was none, coincidentally.
Of those cameras on that circuit,
Yes.
that is correct.
Just for that short period of time. They worked until the evening, they started working again later in the morning. Just that little slot, and it didn't work. You'll agree with me that that's not a coincidence.
Yes, that coincidence is strange.
It must stretch even your imagination.
It does.
Yes,
Yeah.
quite. So now, assuming the body came in the box, and it's now transferred to the cell, how would it get transferred to the cell unnoticed, undetected? Anybody?
If the body was moved, it's currently not clear to us how the body was moved, and that will form part of the criminal investigation by SAPS. As we indicated before, we did a proper investigation on all the policies and procedures that had to be followed. Where these were not followed, we've taken action to ensure that people that's responsible to follow these are being liable.
See, there's the problem, Mr. Badenfeld. Every time you semi-answer a question, then you tack that bit on at the end about how it's not really your responsibility. Nothing here is your responsibility. Every time there's this little exculpatory phrase about we've done this, we've done that, we've reported. It's not us. Who, sir? Me, sir? No, sir. Anybody else, sir, but not me, sir. It's a little bit, it's wearing a bit thin. You maybe want to not do that. So you say if the body was moved, well, it must have been moved because it got into the cell. Or are you suggesting that somebody walked in there, was murdered in the cell, and then set alight?
No, Honourable Member, I'm suggesting no such thing. I've indicated what's available to my information and answered it to the best of my ability to the committee.
Okay, and then how did Bester get out? I mean, assuming that you agree with me now that Bester got out, because until a few days ago it was your position that it was him in that cell. So let's assume you agree with me now that Bester got out. How did he get out? With all those checks and balances, all that security, how did he get out?
I will preempting, that's part of the SAP investigation. Currently, to say how he got out, I don't think that's my purpose now. The SAP who's doing the criminal investigation, and I know you said I keep on saying and passing the buck. Unfortunately, that's how it operates. The SAP are conducting the criminal investigation, and we do a due diligence investigation into the operations.
You don't think that it's part of your responsibility to determine how a murderer and a serial rapist walked out of your prison? That's somebody else's responsibility. Get real. You honestly, that's the answer to the question. It's not your responsibility.
Our responsibility is to assist the SAP in every single way that we can, providing all information, providing everything that we have to the SAP to assist them to do a proper criminal investigation into the situation. Honourable.
It appears to me that the things that you do have are not terribly helpful. And it's the things that you don't have that are the issue here. But I'll leave that be. You say that Bester had a laptop and no control is exercised over the use thereof.
Honourable Member, I responded that when that question was asked to say our IT office on site, they've got a screen where they have linked these computers of the inmates when they plug that, because these inmates cannot send the documents to anywhere if they don't make use of our computer center. Because our understanding is that those laptops does not have the modems. So once that laptop is plugged, to have access to can send document to the institution, it reflects on the screen of our IT office, and then they can pick up that this particular inmate is now using the system, and then they can trace to say on which website did the inmate went.
I see. And do they check what they do?
Honorable member, I can confirm because it was quite interesting for me to learn that they do spot checks as to what the inmates are doing there.
And you've read the reports about Bester running a business from his prison cell and appearing on all types of fancy, glitzy shows? And this was not picked up in any of your spot checks?
Honorable member, I can say I have seen those media reports, but from what I have learned from the investigation, we did not pick up that to say we can confirm that all what the media was saying, it is true, it happened at MCC. I cannot commit myself to that.
A lot of things you can't commit to. When the laptop comes in, do you check it? Is it inspected? And if so, by whom?
Honorable member, the laptop is being checked, although it is not been opened, because these laptops, most of them are coming brand new. They still have got the warranty and the like.
So you don't really check it?
No, they are being checked.
What do? You look at it?
But to what extent? I think the IT office will have said the right language.
Do you not know that? I mean, is it not something that you should know?
No, I know, honorable member, to say they are being checked.
Yeah, but you don't know how. So look at it. There's a box, there's a laptop. So have a look. There's a laptop. All right, off you go. That's it. Is that how it's checked?
Honorable member, they are being checked. But really, I'm not...
If they don't open it, how do they check it?
Honorable member, I'm really unable to
You don't
explain
know?
exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
I see. Okay. Mr. Horn, would you like some of your time back? Huh?
Honorable
No, I haven't.
Petenbach, are you done?
No, Mr. Horn wants to use some of his own time.
Number 9 was the last one.
Okay, it's fine. Whatever I haven't used of his is his.
Honorable Engelbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gentlemen, in your report and through the interactions that we had up to now, you stated that firstly you cooperated with DCS, SAPS, JICS fully, and it also became clear that you said that you only found out on the 2nd of February 2023 that the body in the cell was in fact not that of Bester. So I just want to know. In a report that we received from JICS, it is stated there that on the 11th of August 2022, the body found in the cell does not appear to be that of inmate Bester. So that was 11 August 2022. Now, do you want to tell me, or just provide clarity, that from the 11th of August 2022 until the 2nd of February this year, in all your interactions that you had with JICS and DCS and SAPS, that you were not made aware or that information was not shared with you up until the 2nd of February, that the person that passed away in Bester's cell was in fact not Bester?
Honourable Member, no, we did not say that we were not aware. There was a lot of speculation going around at the time as to the identity of the body that was found in the cell. What we did say is that it's only on the 2nd of February 2023 that we were given evidence by way of the DNA report and the pathology report to confirm these rumours.
So just a short follow-up on that one. So what you're saying is that even if the inspecting judge or his representative or someone from the Department of Correctional Services or the South African Police Service spoke to you and told you that we believe that that person that died there is not in fact Bester, it means nothing to you until you receive a DNA report, and then and only then you will act upon such information.
Honourable Member, it wasn't up to us to act. We waited for this proof as confirmation of the fact that the person in that cell was not inmate Bester. We acted prior to that by doing our internal investigation and exhausting all information, reviewing and exhausting all information available to us to arrive at a conclusion as to what happened that evening. As far as the criminal investigation is concerned, other than provide the information available to us, we were not able to continue with a criminal investigation.
Thank you. About this missing video footage. Now, in your report that you sent to us, you say that these camera systems were working. I can find the page for you if you missed that. Incident summary, 2nd of May 2022, 19:30. Security systems technician confirms security system is operational. Right. So then, and it's not about, I'm not asking a question about the security system, it's just a lead on. So, in between the 11th of August and the 2nd of February, when you became aware or that someone mentioned to you that we don't believe that dead body belongs to Bester, and with everything that transpired with the cameras that was turned away, certain cameras that was switched off and not working, footage that was not available, the very suspicious way that a vehicle entered the facility, the fire, which is a very serious incident. Don't you think that it was probably the correct thing from your company side to do, to check due diligence and whether all your systems are operational? And, you know, because it is very clear that a crime has been committed on a facility managed by yourself where none other than people employed by you were involved. It is clear, undisputable. So, and in your answering up to this point, you stated that yes, well, we handed it to SAPS and we told JIX about it and we told DCS about it. Was there nothing done from your side? Because obviously there is a big problem with your system and the security at that facility. And of course, my question, as a, and I'm sure a member of the public, if this could have happened at Mangaung G4S, what else could have happened there? And we need to acknowledge the good journalist from ground up, because I'm sure if he didn't break the story, none of us sitting on this side would have been wiser about, any the wiser about what transpired here. And only after the story broke, everything seemed to start happening now. From your side as well, if I look at your timeline, things started happening after the story broke. So let's not go into that. I just want to know, did you do a diligence check? Did you investigate, not in terms of covering your backsides, in terms of the contract that you might lose, but in terms of doing your job, making sure that prisoners that's incarcerated in your facility is in actual fact not able to escape from that facility?
Honourable Member, the security system is managed by Integriton. I believe that there was a last a last-minute summons to them to come and report what they found to this committee. I can say that at 19:30 on the evening of the 2nd of May, in terms of standard protocol, Integriton reported to us that the cameras were in a working condition. Subsequent to that, and I believe Mr. Bijleveld can help me here, but I believe it was on the 4th of May, we immediately contacted Integriton to find out why the system failed during the hours mentioned in our report. We acted on that the very next day. As to your comment around the vehicle, again, I must emphasize the timelines here. We were made available only on the 28th of February 2023 by the DCS of this incident.
So when Bester was moved to a single cell, in terms of the system, only a controller, which is a DCS official, can allow that to happen. And by law, when an inmate is moved from a cell block to isolation, you have to inform JICS about that move. Was that, in fact, done when Bester was moved to Broadway?
I will ask Mr. Bijleveld to answer that, and if you would like, Honourable Member, he can also answer you on the procedures taken regarding the security system on the 4th of May.
Honourable Member, on the security system, yes, the security system did indeed not provide us the video footage. We've investigated and found that the person from Integrity, according to our processes, did follow up on if the systems were working or not. And on the 3rd of May, when we wanted to view the video footage of the incident and that was not available, they were immediately contacted and requested to assist us in a report on why, what happened, and the reasons for this. That was with regard to the report. Then with regard to, sorry, can you just ask the second question again, please? I don't want to answer the wrong thing. Oh, sorry, I realized it was the question if JICS was informed.
Yes.
This incident happened on the Friday night. It was over a long weekend. So the incident started on the Friday night with his movement. Approval was received from the controller late that afternoon to move the inmate into the cell. And the documentation informing JICS is being sent by the controller's office because they are the reliable people on the site. Our correspondence to the JICS information. And the incident occurred before they could have been informed of this removal of the inmate over the weekend.
Thank you. Then let's come to the computer that was mentioned previously. You do know that if you have a laptop and you have a cell phone, you don't need any other connection. You can connect to the internet. Because look, to pull off an operation like this, you need extensive planning to happen. And obviously, if you know that you are being monitored, you are not going to make use of the facility's internet. So when did you realize that there was a cell phone in Bester's possession?
Cell phone was found after the SAP gave the cell back or released the cell to us after the body of the person that was in the cell was removed to the mortuary. It was then when the items in the cell was taken and to be put in a box and into a black bag that the cell phone was found in between these.
Sorry, when you are moved from a one cell block to isolation, all your personal belongings need to be moved with. Are those personal belongings checked before you enter into your isolation cell?
You need to be searched, Honourable Member, yes. The employee that did not do that searching was charged and received a 12 months written warning. on this case for not searching the inmate when he moved from one cell to another cell.
Yes, sir. I must note that a lot of things seem to not have happened the way that they should have happened, particularly when it comes to this inmate. From the time that he was incarcerated, secret visitor received, and everything up to the time that he walked out of your facility without being noticed for months. When a serious incident occurs, there must be a head count must be done. And this is a very specific way that the head count is done. And it's not that call a name and you stick up your hand. There's a piece of paper with your photograph on, and you do a thumbprint to check. After this incident, a head count was done, apparently, and everyone was accounted for. Was that procedure followed where you checked the thumbprint with the document of each inmate in that facility?
Honourable Member, I can confirm it was not done the way the Honourable Member is explaining it to be done.
Was it not supposed to be done, or has the regulations changed in the meantime?
Honourable Member, the procedure that we are doing to account for the inmates, since they are kept in about 8 sections in that facility, the 6 units, the 1 unit in the hospital, and the 1 unit which we call this Broadway where the incident took place. Individually, those departments are sending their roll count, physical roll count, to central control room, which will make the whole calculation, and then if the numbers tally, which is supposed to be 2928, we take it for that all the inmates have been accounted for.
Okay. I want to know, we did send a request last week for information, but we unfortunately have not received it. So I have to, because I really don't want to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it in any case now, since we did not receive the information. Can you please tell me, from all the people that you have in your employment at Mangaung, how many of your employees are either children or direct family members of Department of Correctional Services officials? If you know the answer, who are they? And to which DCS officials are they related?
Honourable Member, I can confirm that we do have employees that are related to some of the DCS officials, although some of the DCS officials that I think of are no more in the service of DCS.
Yes, it would have been nice if we could have received that information when we requested that.
Honorable Engelbrecht, don't you think that it will still be important that that information be submitted?
Yes, yes, of course. I would like to see that very much, Mr. Chair.
Maybe we should give you 7 days to submit that information.
Honourable Chair, we took note of that and we are committing that we will submit such information.
Also, the other information that we requested, every single program that you offer at the facility, who's the contractors, who's involved, and what exactly do they do? How long does it take? What does it cost? Lastly, I saw on social media that a journalist named Ruth Hopkins did a investigated journalistic piece on the Mangaung facility. Now she claims that there were 7 escapes that took place in that facility, of which 4 was not reported. It's a claim by her. So Has this ever been looked into, or are you not aware of Ms. Hopkins's expose on G4S Mangaung?
Honourable Member, maybe I can answer that question, and then specific to the escapes, my colleagues can address you on that. We are aware of all the allegations made by Ruth Hopkins. They were investigated, to my knowledge, by JICS and by the DCS at the time, and no matters were brought to our attention that raised any concern. To my knowledge also, we received no observation notices in respect of the allegations that she had raised. I cannot comment on recent social media posts because I'm not aware of those. As far as the additional escapes is concerned, other than those that we've informed this committee on, I need to defer to my colleagues.
I've got one more question, Mr. Chair. It entails the entering of the vehicle from outside the facility and the Sally port. Nobody knows what happened there because apparently, the footage does not exist now. But apparently this body had to be taken to a holding area which was a workshop, or still is a workshop. When I was there last week, when you exit the Sally port, it is to your right, and then there is a workshop right there. Now, according to regulations, EST officials are not allowed to enter the workshop. There's also no cameras installed within the workshop. Now, if you think about a box or a wooden casket or something that contains a body, it's quite heavy. And in our visit last week, I was told that the EST officials that worked on the day right there assisted to offload this box into the workshop. And then from there, obviously, nobody knows how that body was then transported or taken up the stairs into C35 and set alight. But that's another issue that I think was dealt with. I just want to know, have any investigation been done about the EST officials that was doing on duty on that particular day, because they must have assisted offloading the dead body in a wooden box from the vehicle